Hi, good evening. My name is Brett Barnes. I'm a resident of Manhattan. I am also a business development specialist for the media industry. I spend a lot of time watching trends in the media industry. I get paid for that. I am a Time Warner Cable customer. I am also an MNN viewer. I also love a couple of new social media platforms that you may never have heard of, like LinkedIn, asmallworld.net, Library Thing, which I love, and I love YouTube. And you know what? YouTube is actually useful in my business. It's not just a toy. But there are some very important trends going on in the media world today, globally, that we need to raise here. Because we need to make sure that any franchisee or group of franchisees that get this franchise can demonstrate to us that they are leaders and that they really get what's going on in this media industry worldwide. Okay? They need to convince us that they know what's going on and that they have the business smarts to keep Manhattan, New York City, as one of those media capitals of the world. Manhattan is one media capital of the world. There are emerging media capitals around this world, and New York City has to fight to keep that leadership. Now, there are a couple of very important trends that we need to talk about here, all of which affect media. They affect every business, and they affect every advertiser who pays Time Warner or any other cable company for that push interruption marketing thing that we're all used to. Okay, these trends are crowdsourcing, open source, word of mouth marketing, youth engagement in media and politics, social media, and the long tail. And any marketer knows that the long tail is plaguing them right now because it's putting doubt in their minds that spending money on cable networks is actually useful marketing dollars spent. Okay? The cable industry is nowhere in leading this charge. Of all those new platforms that I mentioned that I'm a consumer of, how many cable companies are behind those? How about Time Warner? I mean, are they showing any aptitude? You know, just the stance that you could even think that MNN and public access should be flat or smaller doesn't show me much kind of aptitude for what's going on in this media industry. You know, open source, public access is really where the whole industry is going. And we need a franchisee or a group of franchisees that understand that. And I would suggest to you that giving a part of a franchise to Google would actually be a great idea, because they have demonstrated that they know what is going on with user-generated media, with public access, and with the long tail. They do not need to be educated about that. And they also have the smartest engineers in the world working at Google now, and they can set the pace for the competitive set that you have the opportunity to demonstrate your leadership by putting into place. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker will be the Honorable Gail Brewer.
I got some fans. Joe Friendly. I am a product of Time Warner's generosity. I started with public access early on in New York City, and it has grown so that I can present to the public on a daily basis now hour-long examples of the kind of media that our commercial media has been depriving us of. And that is the issue before us. Our democracy is in trouble, and you gentlemen and women have the obligation, the responsibility of helping save our democracy, and public access is an instrument along those lines. It's tempting to get shrill about how bad things are. I'll fight it off. Suffice to say that Noam Chomsky on the show I presented, I think, yesterday, was saying that Americans feel lonesome, that they, within themselves, have figured out that something's wrong with the war in Iraq, that we shouldn't be killing people over there, that our occupation is indefensible. We should let the Iraqi people bring about their own freedom and democracy. But with the media operating the way they are, we feel kind of lonesome. We aren't aware that most American citizens actually feel that way. So that's the problem. And what I would urge you to consider is when Time Warner is complaining we can't afford it, that you see through that and you see the value of being generous to public access. I think the more generous you can find in your heart the way to insist upon, whether it's channel allotments so that public access is afforded equal high quality bandwidth, or if it's a matter of giving money away, how much to force Time Warner to give to public access. I think you'll realize that it is to the benefit of democracy itself that you're generous. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call another 3 speakers.
And training with other people from QEJ and producing shows on LGBT concerns. In case you want to catch it, it's called Q Talk. Our shows will cover topics that are never seen in mainstream.
We've lost long ago, and if it's going to come out, it's probably going to come out like in a Gaia sense, or like in the 100 trillion cells of a human organism that forms a system from the people. And I think it's from there that we will look, and there's hope that there's something emerging among the people as we come up to a singularly significant singularity in the evolution of universal consciousness. It'll be on public access television before it appears in any of the other media. We ought to support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll take a short break.
Is considering and evaluating whether New York City's cable franchises deserve renewal. I wish to specifically address how critical it is that companies who are given franchise contracts by the city to serve the public's needs and interests through the provision of and support for public, educational, and government access channels. Because cable franchisees benefit from the use of public rights-of-way, it is incumbent upon them to serve the public interest by making and Civic Channel TV, CCTV, an additional channel proposed by Manhattan Borough President Scott Stringer that MNN would administer to increase public access to the day-to-day workings of local civic processes and institutions. Again, I appreciate this opportunity to submit testimony regarding the New York City's cable franchise renewals and urge the New York City Franchise and Concession Review Committee and the Mayor to heed the concerns I have raised in negotiating the upcoming franchise agreements. Thank you.
Customer. I am also an MNN viewer. I also love a couple of new social media platforms that you may never have heard of, like LinkedIn, asmallworld.net, Library Thing, which I love, and I love YouTube. And you know what? YouTube is actually useful in my business. It's not just a toy. But there are some very important trends going on in the media.
Thank you. If I go over 3 minutes, you can catch me at Channel 34 at 11:30 on Farther Down the Rabbit Hole. So as soon as I hear that bell, I'll stop. I want to say I was in India during 9/11, never interested in politics, and when I came back, a DVD was in my mailbox, and I looked at it, and I thought it was just unconscionable not to do anything about it. Figured I would do it for a couple of months until Amy Goodman took over because, you know, she's more qualified than I. In any case, I went from thinking that 9/11 was not an Al-Qaeda job to thinking it was an inside job. I no longer think that anymore. But no, that's not what I'm thinking. But what I am discovering, and this is not what I wanted to say, but the fellow who was talking about Google, that's a very, very bad idea. many of the websites that I use to get more research are being taken down at a very rapid rate. 5 million hits have gone to videos that have analyzed the video images that we saw during 9/11. And as fast as these sites are being taken down, they're put up again, embedded in soft porn and other kinds of things. So the community around the world is growing. I have about 600 subscribers, many in other parts of the world, particularly India, because of my commentary on the Mahabharata, which is a battle, epic battle. And I want to say that the goodwill that exists for America comes from groups like this. It comes from the diversity of experiences. And if indeed 9/11 is not an Al-Qaeda job, is not an inside job, but is actually a media job, then we need to pull together black, white, Chinese, transgender, rich and poor, and come together to figure out the strategies so we can understand the weapons that Harold Channer was talking about. Because future combat system, directed energy weapons, it explains the destruction that's happened. And if we don't come together, we won't survive as a species. Now, when I say rich and poor, I have a public access show. I don't have a piece of the act. Thank you for the 1 minute. I don't have a piece of the action of Time Warner, and I think that's the critical thing. At one time, through a fluke of the system, I had a contract, a license, to provide cellular service to 13 counties in Kentucky. I shared by $5 million, $20 million for that at the end, so I know what the capital is worth. But I also know after I got my $5 million and my partners, my family got the other, what was left of the $20 million, money doesn't do everything. But I want to just leave you with the possibility of a connection of empathy that we can work this out, and that public access, like Harold Channer said, will be the first place that will be seeing the innovative solutions, because the established institutions are the lagging indicators. Thank you.
Okay, the next three speakers will be Luis W. Osorio, Nick Zedd, and Eric Weiss.
Good evening. I'm Luis Osorio. I'm the Executive Director of Vision Urbana. It's a non-for-profit, faith-based organization in Lower East Side. In Lower East Side, we're trying to provide programs for the youth and for the elderly. And when I took over this organization, I took over with the vision that we're going to just expand what we're doing throughout the whole city of New York. Through Manhattan Neighborhood Network, we just received a grant. We're now going to be doing a video presentation, 6 of them in fact, to look at a verbal, social, anthropological look at the Lower East Side through the elderly and through the youth, and the comparison of the life and the culture of that community. But how important is public access media and the need to continue renewal of the franchise? This can only be answered by asking how important is the First Amendment and how important is the ability to have free speech. New York City, Manhattan, is an island of major cultural, ethnic, and racial diversity, an island of many voices with many opinions. These voices, these opinions in the past did not have an outlet or media that allowed them to be heard by others outside, not of their background. Often these voices were only capable of expressing themselves only within their community boundaries. But because of public access and organizations such as Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and because of the franchise fees that provide the necessary funds to make things possible, such as providing community groups the appropriate space and technical assistance, the proper equipment and support needed, these many voices now have the ability to express themselves in one voice that is heard by many, all because of public access paid through the franchise fees. We cannot allow the current franchise fees process to be minimized in any manner. You cannot allow the franchise renewal not to be renewed. Organizations such as Manhattan Neighborhood Network is more than just a building with media equipment and with individuals that are employed there. This organization represents an avenue at no cost to an entire county, composed of many to express their values, their issues, their ability to discuss who will represent them in government, and most important, to exercise their right under the First Amendment, free speech. You must renew the franchise and continue public media access. We must not allow an organization such as the Manhattan Neighborhood Network to become mute. So on behalf of Virgin Urbana, its staff, constituents, our board of directors and chairman, Dr. Reverend Mark Rivera, we thank you. The Loisaida community is 100% behind this organization. And gentlemen, you have a task, and ladies, you have a task in front of you. Your task is to really weigh all the options in front of you. Do you want to just go back at one point, or do you want to go forward? We want to go forward. God bless you. Thank you.
My name is Nick Zedd. I'm a filmmaker. I moved here in the late 70s. I've been making films since then, and I've worked, and I guess I represent the unseen, the unheard people in the art star scene, the comedians and artists who live in the Lower East Side, those who have an immense amount of talent but are not members of the Council on Foreign Relations or the Rockefeller family. We don't receive funding from any foundations, and we are locked out of the mainstream media, which is supposed to belong to the public, but we all know that is not the case, or at least our ownership has been usurped by the corporatocracy. This country is not a democracy. It's a corporatocracy disguised as a constitutional republic. But something that comes close to being a democracy is the access that we get through Manhattan Neighborhood Network to communicate ideas, thoughts, and the truth without having to submit to an outside authority that would judge what we do. There's no censorship, no prior restraint, and as a filmmaker, I feel that having worked on, for the last 4 years, a continuing narrative comedy series called The Adventures of Electroff, which is more than just a comedy series. It's a forum for social satire and experimental filmmaking. I've been able to improve as a filmmaker, and it's been a rewarding experience for me working with the actors and artists from the community who would otherwise not have a voice or a way to reach 850,000 potential viewers. I think it's important that it continue as a forum for anyone who lives in this community to express themselves and reach a wider audience. And it's only the cracks in the facade of the totalitarian state wherein those of us who want to express the truth have the ability to do so. So I urge you to do whatever you can to support Manhattan Neighborhood Network Public Access Television. Thanks.
That the initiative is a false path, and the proper path is simply to embark on an educational campaign in which we acknowledge the obvious. That's it. Acknowledge it is obvious. Jet fuel does not cause the collapse. The company-controlled demolition brought down a pair of towers in July in Brooklyn, Queens, for practice. Hello. You need an investigation? You just watch the DVD.
But controlled demolition doesn't explain dust. It explains rivers of molten metal, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how do you properly go about if it's worth education, like Joe said.
We did about 8 years of education now, and there's only so many people you can educate and re-educate. The point is, without any legal foothold, we can't do anything about it. No matter how much we all know, no matter how many people know, if they're not going to get out by the millions in the streets and do something about this crime, which was perpetrated by our government, or rogues in it, the military-industrial complex, then we've got to take this route, which is the only route that we have. We do have some power in this country on the local level, local democracy, to have these initiatives for people to vote for the law they want, the investigation they want, and not have to rely on politicians to do it for them.
Now, my viewers are familiar with that. The funding has to be presented in order to do the investigation. What is the funding? How is it
well, that's what the initiative ballot is all about. We are petitioning our local city government. The city council eventually will have to rule on this. And if we have enough signatures, then we get it automatically, as long as the signatures are valid. And the signature petition that we have right here, we're getting signatures for, is for a new investigation, which includes an attorney general office to protect the commission's work legally while it's being done, and also as a funding plan for the commission's work. We have to have a funding plan in order to pay for this investigation, otherwise they won't approve it. Every initiative that goes before the city has to have a funding plan now. So our funding plan is to have an attorney general who can raise the money by suing corporations who renege on their tax abatement agreements that they had, and a number of other issues like Spitzer and Cuomo have done recently and in the past, raised billions of dollars for the city. So that's a great funding plan.
Why was that taken out? It's such a great funding plan.
That funding plan was removed by arbitrarily by the dictates of William Pepper, who was the original designated chairman of the original petition drive. He said that he wouldn't be able to get any funding.
Excuse me a second. The original petition drive?
Yes.
Dr. Pepper was on that one?
Yes.
And the petition that he was driving for was signed by Carl Pearson with that Central Office of City Attorney General?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
He decided, along with some of the local people, to remove that in order to make it easier, was the excuse, easier to get funding. Well, that funding never really came in the numbers that he promised. So we don't know why beyond that such an important funding plan was taken out, because they didn't replace the Attorney General with any other funding plan that made any sense that the City Council would approve.
That must have been pretty heartbreaking for people like you and others that were meeting at the church every week.
Yeah, we were definitely betrayed. And what happened is others from outside just came over and took over our initiative and just went with it.
And Les went along with that, even though you worked with him so closely?
Oh, yeah. In his judgment, it was the thing to do, but the majority of the steering committee did not, but he just did it anyway. So now the remnants of the original steering committee are now proceeding, as you see here, with our own.
Would you be interested in joining us on a panel, and maybe we could invite Les and some of the people who gave so much effort at St. Mark's week after week after week?
I will happy to discuss that.
Okay, great.
When we get the details.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Let's see what Luann says.
It took me.
Oh, people are coming in. Hey, Luann, how's it? Do you want to make a few comments? No?
I don't want to be on camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, did you get the, she's getting the shots. Let her take shots. Oh, okay. Michelle, did you talk to Michelle?
No.
That's Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Would you like to talk about what's going on here?
She's good. We are collecting a petition for a new investigation of 9/11. We want it to be on the next ballot when people go and vote next time. We need 45,000 signature minimum. So we need people to know about this and sign our petition.
Did you used to go to St. Mark's Church?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
So I detect from your accent that you're French?
Yes, originally.
Originally. Why is this of interest to you personally? Why do you think it's important?
Oh.
Because you give us a fresh perspective coming from another country.
Well, I've lived here a long time, so I have the perspective from here. Over there, they don't know that it was an inside job or whatever you want to call it.
Some people think it was an outside job done by European contractors. and it was one of the steps to devastate the economy. But were you here during 9/11 in New York?
Yes, I was, yes.
Were you living close to the World Trade Center?
No, but I mean, I was in Manhattan and I smelled the burning flesh and the dust. For months we had the smell go uptown. You know, it was
and I hear the dust was in air conditioners even in Queens.
Yeah, everywhere.
It was going
probably
everywhere.
Still there.
Right.
So it's still in the conducts.
So you're really keeping the faith and collecting signatures
well, I
now?
think we have to know the truth. You can't let anybody come and blow up buildings like that in our country and being told lies about it. It was obvious who were being told lies. To me, it was, I wasn't into politics at all before, but I was sure it didn't sound right what they told us. It didn't make sense to me. Right. To me, if you attack a country, you make demands. You don't attack a country like that for no reason. There were no demands. They did it. They knew who had done it right away. So if they knew 2 days after who did it, they must have known who did it 2 days before. I don't see how you can investigate something in 2 days.
I think
that's
within 20
impossible.
minutes they were proposing
whatever it
Bin
seemed to
Laden
me
or whatever.
2 days, maybe it was only 20 minutes, I don't know, whatever it
very
was.
short time, yeah.
Plus we had never heard about Bin Laden, and all of a sudden Bin Laden is everywhere.
Right.
And I'm like, who is this guy to begin with, you know?
So you want something more methodical and with decorum and
Well,
careful,
I want the
and
truth.
Exhibit A and Exhibit B.
And I want it to go all the way to the bottom. I want to know who did it, why they did it.
Right.
We can have all kinds of suspicion, we can have all kinds of theory,
Right.
but we need to know the exact truth. And I don't think they told us that.
Can you explain why the funding of the commission is important? Who funds it, how they get the money? Because it's expensive to do an investigation. Taxpayers don't want more taxes to pay for it. They think, oh, let's just leave it be and go on.
This is why our petition as an Attorney General included in it, because the Attorney General who wrote this petition knows what he wants to do, how he wants to raise money, because you can't have a taxpayer paying for this. So he has an idea how he's going to get the money.
So that's why your petition says, with the Office of City Attorney General. And so they can find out more at 911realinvestigation.org or 911ballotinitiative.org. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.